Hello and welcome to the Change Gang podcast with me, your host, Laura Ordile. I'm here to help you hold on to your sanity and your soul as you move through big change. I'm here to guide you from frustration to flow in your life, bridging the practical and the woo, just for you. Let's go. All right. Welcome to the week, Change Gang. I have a fascinating person to chat with today, and I think you're going to just have some fun with this one. Hollow Worton is here, and she is an amazing person. She's an author, podcaster, and so much more. And the part that I'm super interested in is what she has authored in terms of a book that I just recently read, and it's all about talking to trees. And I was introduced to her through the course of one person and another, and was offered some information that she had. And I thought, well, heck yes, I want to know how to talk to trees. And in that moment too, I just want to share that it was, and I've got to ask it when we get into this, that it was that little moment. Are you crazy? You think you can talk to trees? But then it was like, no, let's just go with the flow. So welcome, Holly. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I have to guess that you had that moment at some point. Really? Talking to trees?
Yep.
So tell me about that. Tell me about how that kind of started, because you're very much an outdoor enthusiast, which yes. I'm assuming brought some of that into play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've always loved nature. I've always loved the outdoors. When I was in high school, my first job wasn't in fast food. It was at a garden center selling plants. I've always liked plants. And I've always spent a lot of time outdoors, whether that's hiking or trail running or just walking. Yeah, I definitely had that moment of what is this? So the way I was introduced to tree communication was through a friend who does Akashic Records readings. And one time that I got a reading from her, the records keepers came in and said, next time you're out on a walk, go up to a tree and touch it and feel your chakras, see which ones activate, and then talk to it. And I thought, well, I don't know how to do that, but okay, I'll give it a try. And I was out on a walk in a new area that I wasn't familiar with, didn't have a map with me, was just kind of exploring, following these directions that I had printed out on a piece of paper, and went up to a tree and I touched it and I heard the words, "It's okay." And I thought, oh, I don't know what that means. So I went to another tree and it said the same thing. And I thought, well, I'm clearly not doing this right because I'm just getting the same message. I don't know what's going on. And then I continued on my walk, and a few minutes later I got lost. And then I started to get turned around. I started to kind of panic and think, oh, I don't have a map. What am I doing? Where am I? I've not been to this woodland before. And then I thought, well, maybe that's what the trees meant when they said it's okay. Maybe that was a real message. And so I went up to the nearest tree and I just asked it for help, and it gave me directions and I got back on track. And so that was my first experience with tree communication. It was the trees just helping me out of a spot where I'd gotten myself into.
So when you say you got directions, did it literally like a little bit of a download, or did you just kind of have a sense, or what?
No, so when I'm communicating with trees, I actually hear a voice in my head. So I actually hear them speaking. The stories that you have read in the book, I actually heard those full sentences and I recorded those. So what I heard from this tree was, get back on the trail, turn left here, go up to the next branch, turn left, turn right, get back on track, and that'll help you get back to where you need to be. So it was very clear directions.
Wow. When that happened, from there to deciding to go out and have more communication and even ask for wisdom and then go into writing a book about it, what was the little bit of the process there that happened for you?
There wasn't much of a process. It kind of went from 0 to 100. So after that, I would kind of go out and walk, and I would say hi to the trees and felt like had this lovely connection. They would say hi back, but it was very, very simple. And I didn't do much with it until I was on this forest bathing meetup. And one of the things that we did was we went into this old grove of ancient yew trees. And the people who were guiding the forest bathing session said, pick a yew tree and just go up to the yew tree and connect with it and touch the tree. And there was a tree that, as they were talking, caught my eye out of the corner of my eye, and I went, that's my yew. And so I went over to the yew and I just touched it, and it was just really I love yew trees because they're just so gorgeous. And I was with this tree and just kind of touching it, And that was when it gave me the idea for the book. And it said, trees have stories. People need to hear our stories. We know you're working on a book right now. We know it's not going well. So why don't you work on this book instead? And just go around and collect the stories of trees, put them into a book and get it out there because people need to hear this. And it was one of those things where I just felt it in my gut that it was just so right. I was so excited. I remember I kissed the tree. And then yew trees are toxic. So of course, as soon as I kissed the thing, I was like, oh God, oh no. And then I remember coming home and telling my husband about it, just being like, I got this idea for a book. It's amazing. And I felt the energy in my body. Like it just felt so right. So it was just such an obvious, yes, I'm going to do this.
And how'd your husband respond to that?
He was all for it. He knows I do weird things.
My husband. I was just curious. He's like, okay.
Good. He actually translated the book into Spanish a couple of years after it came out. So he now feels like he has a really good connection with the trees because he translated that book and helped bring that into the Spanish speaking world.
Well, what's fascinating, people talk about, go hug a tree or something, but when you do that, there's a physical connection that we have with our earth that we've lost so much of because we're indoors, we're separated, we don't live and sleep and do all those things out in nature anymore. And of course, so many people live in cities and areas like that. It changes the actual electrical balance in our bodies when we connect with a tree. So when I'm talking to people and they need to ground a little bit or they need to kind of feel the energy of earth and bring that stuff in, I tell them, go literally hug a tree. But it never occurred to me to tell them, see what it has to say. And that's the thing that's in my brain now. What do you tell people about, and of course this happens in so many things when we're connecting, but for those that are just starting to connect and kind of be a part of things, but who are very much enthusiasts outdoors and would love to do this, what do you say when it's like, I'm just making this stuff up? This is just me,
Yeah.
How do you kind of talk to them about that? And
that's something I get a lot. And I always tell people that this is a journey of self-trust. So whether you're channeling tree spirits or spirit guides or anything, whenever you're having these kind of subtle forms of communication, it's very rational question to ask yourself. Am I making this up? Is it just all in my head? Is there something wrong with me or is this real? And for me, one of the signs that it's real is that the voices don't sound like me. If you've read the book, you've read the different tree voices, they don't sound like me because the parts of the chapter that I write and the parts of the chapter that the tree gave me, it's a very different feeling. It's a very different energy. It's a very different vibe. They repeat things a lot. They speak differently. And so to me, that's the confirmation that it is real and it's not just me. Because it doesn't feel like me. It doesn't feel like this is me making up a different personality. It really feels like something that's coming from outside of me. And yes, I was very unsure in the beginning, but the more I did it, the easier it got. It's like any skill. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. And it really is a journey of self-trust, of just trusting that you can do this, trusting that it is something that's not just inside of you. It's something that you're receiving from someone else.
And one of the things I like that you did that I think might be helpful to people when they're doing it as well, which might be also a little uncomfortable for them, but I think can make a difference, is you literally, when you went out and spoke to the trees, you sat and recorded that conversation at that time out loud.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of changes the aspect of thing as you're saying, because it keeps the flow going of the information. You're not battling with it in your head. You're just kind of going along with here.
Yeah.
Do you think that makes a difference?
I think it does. I mean, I think people need to do what's best for them. So I know some people channel by writing and, I'm a writer, so you would think that would be natural for me. I'm not. I mean, obviously, I had a podcast for 9.5 years, so I do speak, but I'm much more of a writer than I'm a speaker. So you wouldn't think that would be my natural way of recording their messages, but it was the easiest way. I just let their words flow through me. I used my phone, recorded on my phone, and it was the easiest way. And then I got those transcribed. And obviously, I was listening to them as I was channeling the messages, but it wasn't until later that I kind of read through the transcriptions that I really felt the depth of their messages.
I'm going to ask one more question real quick, and just because it came to my brain, and then I want to talk about the conversations a little bit. But does their voice or their, how would I even say it? Does it change season to season in how they speak?
That's a really good question. I haven't noticed, but now you make me want to go visit a tree in all the seasons and see how it's different. I haven't noticed a change from season to season, and there are trees that I've visited different times of the year, but I haven't actually kind of done that experiment. The first tree in the book, you may remember, was a dead tree, and its spirit had kind of stuck around after its death. And it was still very vibrant when I collected his story for the book. And I still felt a lot of energy, like it was really just still going. But last August, I moved away from the area that I'd been living in for 12 years. And so I went around to all the different trees in the area and I said, I'm leaving. I don't know when I'll see you again. I just wanted to thank you. And I went up to that tree and the energy felt so different. It was really fading. It's on its way out. It's moving on. And so I did notice that. That was very, very different. It was still there, but it was very tenuous. It was just not, it was and just weak and just kind of on its way out.
Well, that would make sense. I mean, that's what often happens with people. They become much quieter, much less in what they're putting out and things like that. Makes sense that was a tree. I just wondered, what's the difference in the seasons for them in their own energy and what they think? There you go. There's a conversation to have with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Each one was so different in the conversations that you had, even in similar species, just as an individual would have. But did you find at all that within a species or within a certain area even, that there was collective thoughts, like being in a neighborhood where you kind of have the collective thoughts of the area? And was it very different if you went outside? Because obviously you move, but you still communicate. How does that show up? Or do you think it does?
It does. There were times where I was always speaking with individual trees. I never really spoke with a collective. But there were times where it seemed like one tree was stepping up to be the spokesperson or the spokes tree for the forest or for the woodland that it was in. Yeah, I never kind of spoke with the collective, but there was kind of that tree that would step up and be like, I'm speaking for my community.
That's so cool. Now let's talk just for a minute a little bit about some of the most profound things that really came. Of course, I'm going to encourage them to go find the book, and all of that information is going to be in the show notes because I want to share that with people. I think it's an experience that everyone should listen to. Read, listen to.
There's an audiobook.
and I think it's so important. So let's talk about a couple of the profound things that kind of came through that you believe was really important, not only for you, but for everyone.
I really had no idea what to expect. I didn't know whether I was going to get like fairy tales or like botanical observations or what. But as you notice from the book, it's very much about how people can connect with nature. And obviously that makes sense because those are the stories that the trees want us to focus on. I think energy of some of the trees, what stands out to me in this moment is remembering the Queen Oak from Savernake and the energy of that tree. She's an ancient oak that's starting the retrenching process. She's dropped a lot of her limbs. She's on her way out, but her energy was just so delicious. She was just so joyful and just so lovely. And every time I go back and visit that tree, I get that same energy, that same feeling from her. And I just loved how she talked about finding your joy in nature. So finding what makes you happy in nature and doing more of that, because that's your special way of connecting with nature. That was one of the messages that I really loved because I just loved the energy that came across with it.
And if I remember right, I don't remember exactly how, I might say this wrong, but there was a tree who kind of said no, wouldn't talk to you and said, come back.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, that was one of the first ones. It was Windmill Hill Sycamore, I think it was. Yeah. Because I wasn't in the right space, I think. I think I was in a rush or something. Like I wasn't ready for it. And I did come back and I did get what? And there have been many times that the trees have said, no, I don't want to talk to you. And that's something that I teach is that, don't be don't take it personally. Don't be upset if a tree says it doesn't want to talk, because you wouldn't just walk up to a human stranger and say, hey, let's talk, and expect them to say yes. Some people are going to want to talk to you, some people aren't, and that's perfectly natural. So you can't expect every tree to be like, yeah, let's have a conversation.
So what's one of the most important, or not most important, what's one of the easiest ways for people that the trees have said, share this, because this is really easy, really important for people to be aware of, to get out and connect? Why should people get out and connect more?
The feeling I got was that trees want people to connect with trees and connect with nature, because the more that we do that, the better it is for us. It reduces stress, helps us to live our lives better, but also it helps us to make better decisions in life, in terms of taking care of the planet, in terms of voting for the people that are going to take care of the planet, if those people are available in your local area, that kind of thing. So I think they were encouraging us so much to connect with nature, because they know it's ultimately going to be better for them the more that we disconnect from technology and reconnect with nature.
One thing I think might be a little daunting for people is when you connect with something, obviously you're connecting with that life force, with that. How do you then kind of move through and be okay with the fact that sometimes those trees are going to be removed or cut down or used? And that, I'm just talking about now, and I'm kind of sad, and yet they're a resource that we definitely use. So how do you bring that together and be okay?
I get so many emails from people that are saying a tree is going to be cut down in my city. What do I do? How do I deal with this emotionally? I've written blog posts about it because I get so many emails about it. So there are ways that you can hold a ceremony, honor the tree's life, work through the grief. But ultimately, sometimes we just don't have control over other trees being cut down, because some trees are planted to build things or make paper or cardboard. And one of the trees in the book did talk about that. And that tree very much saw that they were providing a service for us. And just the tree it seemed really accepting of its fate. Like, this is what I'm here for. This is why I was planted. I wouldn't have been planted if it weren't for, the fact that I'm here to provide a service. And I found that to be a really interesting attitude. I'm sure that not all trees that have been planted to be cut down feel that way. And I do feel very much a sadness when I think about trees being felled. But yeah, some trees are here for that purpose.
Yeah, it's with so much of the connection in our own earth, people who are meat eaters or who are plant eaters, it would be the same thing. You're connecting, because the tree, I guess I should ask that, is connecting with a tree similar or the same as connecting with other plants and things like that in our...
Yep, absolutely. I did training a few years back with a plant spirit healing apprenticeship, and we worked with plant spirits and tree spirits. And I think people always ask me if plant spirits are as powerful as tree spirits, and I think they absolutely are. Just because a plant is smaller than a tree doesn't mean that its spirit isn't just as powerful and just as healing and just as useful and interesting. And you can connect with plants in the same way you can communicate with trees.
Is there any difference when you're connecting with them with the age of the plant or the tree? When you have, I was thinking, are the little tiny trees, are they like kids when you talk to them? Or do they kind of come in with a little different spirit?
Well, it's interesting because trees, yes, I definitely get a different feeling of the energy of older trees. There's a 1700-year-old yew in the book that you can feel how it just feels like an old spirit. It's just got lovely energy. But even when connecting with younger trees, I feel like trees are connected to their ancestors in a way that we perhaps aren't or not are aware of. It feels like trees have connections, not only to spiritual connections, not just physical connections to their community, but to their ancestors as well. So I feel like just because a tree is younger doesn't mean that it's not going to have something interesting to say.
Ooh, good point. Wow, this is so fascinating to me and so interesting. I'm trying to figure out what I should have written down, but as we're talking, more and more questions are coming into my brain as we're having, and I always trust that those questions are going to be there. But one of the things would be that you actually do teach people how to do this. You work with them and help them to navigate this, correct?
Yeah, so I'm not in person. I basically do online workshops, and I do have an online course to teach people how to communicate with trees because so many people were asking me how to learn. And I am also working on a book on how to communicate with trees, and that's going to be another channeled book from the trees. So it's not just going to be me saying, do this, this, and this. I've been going to the trees, some of the trees from the original book and lots of new trees as well, saying, people have this question, what's the answer? And getting the guidance from the trees.
That's amazing. Yes, I love online stuff because it just, we can connect from wherever we are in the world, and in-person stuff's wonderful, but online stuff is great too, I think. Yeah. I love that that's an option for people. So where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
The website is hollyworton.com. So Holly like the tree, and Worton is Worton. And I've got everything on there. I've got my books, I've got courses, I've got all the stuff.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything that you'd like to add in the moment?
Just get out there and give it a try. It's obviously not the same kind of communication as we're doing right now because trees don't have vocal cords and a mouth, but it's a very subtle communication that you can learn, and just go out there, connect with the tree, connect with the plants, and try it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wherever you are, you can find a tree, even if you're in a city, there's trees. So go find one and see what happens and enjoy the process a little bit. Well, thank you so much for being here, Holly. Thanks for the conversation. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Change Gang. I hope that opens the door a little bit to some fun adventures for you to get out, to have fun, to get to know all of the energy that's around you, all of the trees, all of the plants, all of the different things, and see what comes. You might be surprised. And I hope that you will meet me right here, same time next week.
I hope today's episode was interesting to you in some way and fun. If so, hey, find someone to share it with. Maybe they need to hear it too, or maybe they'll just enjoy it. If you'd like, go ahead and grab my tips on supercharging your success. It includes a free short meditation to do just that. You can find that at bit.ly/supercharge your success. Until next time, happy day.